is training for the Ironman triathlon. It's a 140-mile race that starts with a swim, continues with biking, and ends with a run. The swimming portion is approximately 1.5% of the race. The biking portion is 80%, and the running portion is 18.5%. Now, we're going to use the equation to do this also, but I also want to show you a different way we can do these. So another way you can do this is mental math. Now, if you could figure out 10% of a number, you could figure out 1%, 0.5%, 80%, and finally 81.5%. So we're going to do this two ways. We're first going to do it by figuring out just 10% of a number, and then we're going to keep breaking this down. So I want to show you a different way before we go straight to the equation. So who could tell me, when just mental math, what's 10% of 140? And remember, that's easy. Just take the 0 off. There we go, 14. So that would be 14 miles. And you can write this down too. I'm going to show you this two ways. We're going to do this the equation way to answer all these questions up here. But I'm going to show you a mental math way you can do too. So, because some of you are really good with mental math, and this might be an easier way for you to understand. But that equation way I showed you in that video and on the Khan Academy practice will really help you out too. So if 10% is 14 miles, what would 1% of 140 be? So think, if 10% is 14, good. I see you guys are seeing what I mean. I know we've done stuff like this in the past. So 1% would be 1.4. So all we did is hop that decimal point back 1. 10% is 14, 100% is 140, 1% is 1.4. What's a 0.5% then? If 1% is 1.4, now be careful on this. Now for 0.5%, we can't just hop the decimal point again. That only works when you're doing 1%, 10%, 100%. But if you have a 0.5%, you can't just hop the decimal point. Be careful. You have to find half of 1.4 or half of $1.40. Good, and I see people typing it and changing it. It would be 7/10 or 70 cents. If you're thinking money, I mean, these are equal. So if this helps you see it better, if you have $1.40, half of that would be 70 cents. So if you want to add the zeros, it doesn't change the value. So this would be half of that. So now, knowing what you know here, what would I do? If I know 10% is 14 miles, how would I use this information right here to find 80%? What do I do with that 14 to find 80%? I saw someone say it, so I'm going to write it. So do this. Do 14 times 8. Because if you do 80%, it would be 10% times 8, because you have to have 8 10% increments. Yep, times 8 is right. So how many miles would 80% of the race be? I see 112 miles, and that would be correct. Now, 81.5%. Now think about what 81.5% would be. It would be, hold on, let me put my little labels here. So if I'm finding, and I know this is a lot of steps, but I just want to show you that this is a possibility. If I want to find 81.5%, all I have to do is add 80% plus 0.5% plus 1%. So what would that equal? Careful with your adding. What would that equal if I add all those together? So 112 plus 1.4 miles plus 7/10 of a mile. So when I add those all up and line up your decimal points, what do I get? We have two people saying 114 and 1/10. Anybody else agree? 114 and 1/10. Good, and that would be 114 and 1/10 miles. So if, to answer that first question, well, they have 80% would be the biking portion. So this would be the bike. If I do just these two, if I have the 1.5% would be just, let me show you, let me put this up here. if I have 1.5% of the race, that would equal these two. Let me unhighlight this. So what are these two together? What's 1.5%? The swimming portion. Good, 2.1 would be the swimming. And now, they say they want to know what 18.5% would be. The easiest way to do that is find what's left. So if I take 100% and I subtract 81.5%, I get 18.5%. Okay, so if that's true, think about what do I have to use, which miles, what subtracted by what do I have to do to find what 18.5% would be? So the whole race minus 81.5% equals 18.5%. So what am I going to think about this here? So if I have 81.5% is 114 and 1/10 miles. If I take that and I do 140 minus 114.1 miles, how many miles would 18.5% of the race be? So if I know enough information, I could just do it this way by just using subtraction. Okay, good. 25.9 miles, and that would be the running amount. So basically, they're running for 25 and 9/10 miles, they're biking for 112 miles, and then they're swimming for 2 and 1/10 miles. Now, are there other ways to solve this problem? Absolutely. But you could possibly do this problem this way. Now, if you like using the equations, and you'll see all those answers are right, those are the answers. If you like using the equations, I'll show you on this chart down here how you can still use the equations to solve this. So I'll show you, we'll figure out the 10 and 1%, but I am going to go back to the equation way so you can see that again. Let me get my drawing tools out so I can actually write on here. So look at here. What they have, what I want you to do, take a minute, copy down this table on your paper. So copy down section A, B, C, D, E, the whole thing on your paper. And as you're copying this on your paper, I'm just going to go through a couple things we know and obviously what we don't know. And I'm actually going to fill in something we do know even though it's not written. We know this equals 100%, so I could fill this in. So remember, to solve an equation, we need to know 3 facts. We need 3 parts of the equation to be able to solve it. So if you look at this, there's definitely a good starting point in here. There's one part of this problem that we know enough information to get started on here. So which of these is the section A, B, C, D, E, or the total? Which one's the easiest to start with and solve first? And I'm going to set up an equation with this. Which one gives us enough information to start? A, B, C, D, E. Just tell me a letter. That would be a good starting point. Okay, Brendan, I'm not sure what you're saying. C, yes, it would definitely be C. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up. Now think about it. We know the percent. We know parts of it. So I'm going to set this up on the side, and I'm hoping you guys are thinking the same. Set this up on your paper. So I have 20 over 100. That's my percent. And that's going to be equal to Now 220 is only part of the whole. So I'm going to do 220. Oh, my writing is getting messy. So 220 over something, which I'll make that my x. So we're trying to find this total here. We need this total to be able to solve the rest of this problem. This is like a puzzle. You have to do certain pieces of the puzzle to be able to solve it. So what is my next line going to look like when I do my cross products? So remember cross products. What is the next line going to look like? So what equals what when I do cross products? Make sure you type in chat. Tell me what you get when you do cross products. Okay, I see. So let's look at what, so this would definitely be 20x when I do 20 times x. But then 220 times 100. Good, it'd be 22,000. So make sure you make this 22,000. There we go. My chat box is getting in the way. I got to move that up. Okay, so what do we do next? How do I isolate my variable? Think back to the videos. Think back to Khan Academy. How do I isolate my x? I want the x alone. What do I have to do to both sides? I see enough people typing it. Divide both sides by 20. Set this up on your paper. This definitely will help you understand what we're doing next week, and it will help you understand your homework. So I'm dividing by 20. 20 divided by 20 just gives me x. And use your calculators to help you. If I have 2,200 and I divide it by 20, what do I get? Good, I see 1,100 miles. That would be 1,100. So see what we just did now? Doing that part of the puzzle helped us solve this. So in your charts on your paper, we can now fill in this because we know the total miles is 1,100. Now, since we figured that out, we now can easily do the rest of this. The rest of this is easy. Even E is easy. E is actually the easiest part because E, what do we have to do to find E? E is like the easiest part of this problem right now. How do we find that distance in miles? Who sees it? That's fine, Devin. We'll see you later. Who sees it? This will be the last problem we're doing for people. I know there's 5 minutes before your counselor meeting if you're going to go. No, don't overthink it, Kat. Could you do that? Now, I'm saying it's easy because it's just addition and subtraction. So think about what you have to do to find E. All you have to do right now is you have to add all these together. 176 plus 231 plus 220 plus 308. And then subtract it from 1,100. So add all the distances you know, and then subtract it from 1,100. So I'll give you a minute to do that because I see one answer, but I want to see if more people get that same answer. So when you add all these four together and you subtract it from the total mileage we know now, what is the total that you get? Add and then subtract 1,100 minus. So I saw two people got it. It would be 165 miles. So this would be 165. So see, now E's done. Now the rest of these, I'm just gonna do one more. And then if you wanna try this later on your own, you can. Now the rest of these, you just have to do the same type of equation for all of these. So we'll do A together, and then the rest of these, if you want to finish this later, you could do on your own. But remember, you could check that you're right, because these percentages have to equal 100%. So let me do A with you. So I have the distance is 176 miles. We have to find what percent is 176 miles if you have a total miles of 1,100. So what would be our two sides of our equation here? What do we know? So we're just going to do A really quick. So I know it's 176 miles. I know the total miles is 1,100. We're solving for the percent. So what equals what? Don't tell me an answer, but tell me how my two fractions will be set up. What's on this side? Where's my variable? I want to know where my variable is and what's on this side. So what's over here? And then what's over here? Type it in when you figure it out. Basically like this. See how we figured out our two fractions first, and then we solved it. I just want the two fractions. What over 100 here? Well, we know it's out of 100, because this is your percent over here. And then what is the part? What is the whole? Yes, yes, Kay, you're good. Always X, use X. Oh, we're doing A right now. We're doing A right now. This is A. We're looking at A. So this is what they tell you. Okay, so this is definitely, we're solving for this. 176 is our denominator. I mean, our numerator. Our denominator is 1,100. Now, when you solve this, you do your cross products. 1,100x. And you do 176 times 100, which will give you 17,600. So real quick, guys, when you divide both sides by 1,100x, so you're dividing both sides by 1,100. And this will be the last one we do. What does x equal? Anybody else get 16? 17,600. Good, we're getting 16. So your answer here would be 16%, because 16 over 100 would be 16%. So that's how you do those kind of problems. So if you know, as long as you know three parts of the problem, you could solve all of these. Any questions on any of these? Okay, so again, you could practice that more. I think that should be enough that you understand it.